All right, so here's a question for you. We as fans of music, are we friend or are we foe? Now stick with me here because we all know that change is inevitable. And not all change is bad, but I'd probably argue that not all change is good. And like the saying goes, the road to hell is paved with good intention. And our relationship with music has changed. In some ways, it's changed very similar to the way that our relationship with food has changed over the past couple of decades. In many ways, the average experience for today's music consumer is like going to your local grocery store, where you're surrounded by a ton of options, all driven by low cost and convenience. Once upon a time, music was literally treated like a treasure. And outside of singing, unless you had somebody in your family that could play an instrument, your only access to music would be at a local venue, be it a pub, church, or having the opportunity to see some type of ensemble like an orchestra, which for some people would be a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Now, over time, instruments would become more affordable, allowing more people to learn to play. Music would become more accessible, whether it's through radio, portable listening devices, or even television. But through it all, music remained a treasure. I mean, an album collection, a cassette collection was more than just a possession. It would become part of your identity. We invested time into studying the album artwork, reading the liner notes, the lyrics, learning the names and the stories of the band members, and in some cases, even learning the names of the producer and the people involved in the production of the album. It was special. And if you became a musician, you would invest years into learning how to play that instrument. Music was a treasure. And I say was because I worry now that music has become a commodity. So when I say that music's becoming a commodity, what do I mean? Well, in many ways, it's beginning to lose its differentiating value. Take a record collection as an example. Once upon a time, your collection of records, your tapes, was a point of personal pride because it required an investment of both time and money. It's something that might differentiate one person from another within your circle of friends. There was always probably that one person where others looked at it and went, damn, that person's got an incredible library of music, whether it's tapes, records, genres, artists, etc. And if a tape or a record got broken, it was kind of stressful because that meant you had to invest time and money to replace it. Well, we live in a world now where through the benefit of technology, and it really is a benefit, if you're watching this video, you have access to the greatest, largest library of music ever. It's the same library of music that everybody else in your circle of friends has access to. There's no longer any differentiating value there. And if you lose access, you don't really stress it because you can get the same music through Spotify, YouTube, and many other channels. Which brings me to an important point. We really don't own anything. We lease access to the music, or in some cases, we have free access, which is being paid for by advertisers. But in most cases, we actually don't own anything. We're just leasing access. And because we don't own anything, there's no fear of losing anything. And when a product becomes widespread, easily obtained, easily replaced, it begins to lose its perceived value in the eyes of the consumer. That's just the way it works. Now, in many ways, if you think about it, the same could be said about being a musician. Because where it once took an investment of time and money to learn how to write and to play a specific instrument, now through software advances in MIDI and sampling technology, you can actually add instrumentation to a song or full orchestra and choral parts without really knowing how to play the instrument or having access to the artist. And that's pretty cool, and I think you'd find most musicians would say that's pretty cool. But it does come with the risk of reducing any differentiating value in being a musician. In fact, we live in a time where from your living room or bedroom, you can write, record, release, and distribute a song to a worldwide audience in the course of a weekend at a quality level higher than any other point in history, requiring a minimal amount of musical knowledge. More music is released on a daily basis than ever before, which that's not a bad thing. It just means that we've made songwriting more accessible to more people. More people are now able to express themselves through music. And again, that's not a bad thing. But it does come with a couple byproducts that we as music consumers, I think, need to be aware of. One, songwriters, because more music is being released, it's harder to stand out. Songwriters are now a much smaller fish in a much bigger pond. In addition to that, I'm not convinced that the relationships between the artist and the audience is as strong as it once was. Artists, I think, are able to kick out music much faster without much thought or commitment to the song. Then the audience is able to find, listen to, forget, and replace an artist very quickly. So therefore, the relationship is not like it once was. In addition, it's enabling a behavior that I refer to as fan apathy. And ironically, the very channel that's allowing artists to reach a worldwide audience is also making it much more difficult for an artist to make a living. And I'm referring to music streaming. To be clear, I'm not saying that streaming music is bad, nor am I saying that streaming companies are bad guys. In fact, there's a lot of benefits to be had to streaming. It's just the financial benefits are complex and may not be what you think they are. In fact, when we take a look at the top streaming companies, you can see that it takes quite a few streams to make even a little bit of money. And how much of that money makes its way back to the artist is dependent on a number of other factors. In some cases, an artist may not get any money. Spotify had shared the possibility of changing their payout strategy to include minimum monthly thresholds. And if an artist fails to meet that threshold, any money they accrue actually goes into a community pool to be paid out to their larger artists. All right, so now think about this. When you, me, probably most people, when we come across an artist or a song that we really love, what do we normally do? Well, we typically go and stream it because it's convenient. It's easy. It's cheap. But now that we know that if you really want to support an artist, you truly want to support them, they need to buy something. Buy the album, whether in digital or vinyl format. Buy the merchandise. But fan apathy would say that even though we know that the best way to support an artist is to buy something, we'll continue to stream it because it's convenient. We love convenience. We really do. Convenience is what has driven the food industry for the last few decades. It's the reason that even though we know we could go down to a local farmer's market and buy healthier alternatives, putting more of the money directly into the producers, we'll continue to shop at the local grocery store buying mass-produced, highly processed, very unhealthy foods because they're cheap and convenient. And make no mistake about it, we are devaluing music because when a product becomes widely available, easy to obtain, easy to replace, its perceived value goes down. And we're taking right now something that was once a treasure, and we're pulling a lot of the value out of it. So I'm not saying go out there and buy every album from every artist, but if you run across an artist that you really do love and you want to support, just keep this in mind. And I'm not judging because I'm as guilty as the next person on this one. But I have spent probably the last 18 months really starting to become more aware of this and the impact that streaming is having on the music community. So that's my 2 cents. As always, I want to hear your thoughts.